So, yes, welcome back to the second half. This is... I don't know how this is going to go, to be honest with you. We've got the rock and roll fraternity here now. Who've been here since about 4 o'clock and actually probably been in the pub since about 4 o'clock. So, first of all, I will go through them one by one. But first of all, I want to introduce to you a guy called Pete Valentine. Pete's sitting in the middle. I need to read this out about Pete. So, Pete started life as a BT engineer, but through a friend he was playing in a band with, landed a little teching job. And in 1994, that's when it was, and little teching job, and yes, and he's been Brian May's guitar tech ever since. Whoa, exactly. So there is no one who knows the Red Special like this chap here. And in fact, all Brian's guitars. But I need to read this to you as well. Peter's 6'2". He's an Aquarius who likes dancing in the rain and long walks on the beach and poking dead things with a stick. He dislikes U2, anything French except wine, cheese, bread and fries, and people who don't set the time right on their electrical appliances. Well, you're not going to like me.
Inexcusable.
No, you're not going to like me because I was born in the 60s, and they said about people born in the 60s they were going to be the ones to change the world. I can't even change the clock on my oven.
Okay. So. I was told not to swear, but you've opened up that.
This is a whole different section now.
Thanks for opening that particular gate up.
The watershed.
No, this is unfiltered now. They've all had a drink.
Victoria was very worried.
Brian May's guitar tech.
Yes.
Tell us a bit about that.
I'm Brian May's guitar tech.
Yes, I understand. When did it all start? I need to look. So you've been his tech for what, 20 years now?
It'd be 25 years in January.
Gosh, that's amazing. And Brian's been using Sennheiser all that time, is he?
Well, not since. Well, when I started working for him in '94, they weren't really touring then. He was doing solo stuff.
Right.
But obviously, well, Freddie died in 1991. Yeah. And Queen never played live again from 1986 to 2005. So, 2005 or about 2004 is really where the Sennheiser thing started.
Right. And why Sennheiser?
Well, I met a fabulous guy called Dave Hawker. Right. God rest his soul.
Yeah. Who
was the loveliest man, and I met him at a concert in South Africa, which was a Nelson Mandela AIDS benefit concert, and I just got on really well with Dave. He was a lovely guy. These guys, anyone who knows Dave in this room will tell you he was the most fantastic guy. And when we started to go on tour, I phoned him because Brian needed a decent wireless system. He'd been using some crap Samsung system in the 90s, and it was... Who laughed then? You used to work for Samsung. Anyway, no, he was using some crap system, and I phoned him because I needed a wireless system, and he basically came and helped me.
Brilliant. And is that when you started using Sennheiser at that point?
I started using Sennheiser, but actually we got to the Evolution system by default.
Right.
The system he gave me, which I can't even remember the name of.
5012?
Sorry?
Dave Campbell sorted me out with the Sennheiser 5012 system.
5012? Where's that?
5012.
Yeah, 5012.
Yeah.
Probably was.
Now,
it was.
Cut long story short, it was a really good system, and it worked fantastically well, but about 10 shows into that tour, it started to deteriorate.
Right.
And I have to say at this point, it was nothing to do with the system. It was to do with what I'll explain in a minute. But we had a perspex stage.
Right.
And what was happening was at a certain point in the tour, Brian would give me his electric guitar and go to an acoustic guitar, and he'd be sitting there, and obviously with an acoustic guitar that's mic'd up, he's sitting there without any physical connection to the front of our system or anything.
Yeah.
And what was happening after that, he would hand off the acoustic guitar to someone else who, like, I don't do acoustic guitars, that's stupid. And I would give him the guitar, and it would be really crackly. and it was we couldn't work out why. It was a certain point in this show, and I remember a gig in Budapest, and it completely failed. The system completely failed, and I had to actually put him back on a wire, a long wire, which for a big arena show with a big long thrust is an absolute nightmare. And I phoned Dave, and Dave, about six shows later, Dave came out to Birmingham, and we went through it. And what was actually happening was Brian was charging himself up with static electricity on a Perspex stage, and then I'd give him the guitar, he'd touch it, he'd discharge himself through the input jack, which would blow all the components which were in that input jack.
Wow. Is that sexy enough for you?
So Dave Hawker came to Birmingham, and we sussed that this was happening. We kind of knew that it must have been something to do with this stupid Perspex stage. We tried spraying it with anti-statics. That it's just. We proved it. Me and Dave Hawker proved it to ourselves.
Right.
We did tests where we walk around and we put the guitar on me and go, and it would be fine before we did that, and then afterwards it would blow all these components in the output jack.
Gosh.
So Dave said, "Okay, right. What you need is not this system. What you need is this system," which was the Evolution system. It's a G2 Evolution system, and that was in 2005. And so I've been using that system ever since.
And you're still using G2?
Yeah.
Not G3?
No.
Or G4?
No.
And what? Okay. Why is that?
We did try a newer system, and the way Brian's guitar system works is unique to any other guitar player, and anyone can prove me wrong on that. I'm absolutely fine to take it, but Brian has a thing called a treble booster, which is the one very, very important component of his sound, and it has to go before the radio system. So it comes from the guitar to the treble booster, which is like basically like a 20 dB mid-range gain.
Okay.
That then goes to the transmitter pack. Mm-hmm. Now, once we got this working with the Evolution system, he became so happy with the sound that anything I try to do with him now, he doesn't like. And that's no disrespect to Sennheiser whatsoever. It's because it's too good now. Okay. I tried him on a later version of Evolution system, and he didn't like it.
Wow.
Because he said, and his exact words to me were, "It sounds too much like a guitar lead, and I don't want that anymore."
Amazing.
So what Sennheiser have done is for me personally, they've made themselves too clever. Okay. What they've done is they've made it like it was on a lead, and he doesn't want that now.
And is this something you guys might answer, is something inheriting the electronics in the G2 system? Is it like the compounder in it that's presumably the whole thing is to do with slight bit of harmonic distortion and I don't know, I'm kind of just making it up as I go along, to be honest with you. Just,
I think we've struggled to figure that out and come to the conclusion that the solution is to stick with what works, because to try and analyse what it is,
sure.
It would take too long to try and figure out, and possibly we'd never get there.
I totally agree. There is no one plays on a homemade guitar and does what he does and plays with the coin. Everything he does is everything he does is unique. Everything he does, and I can play his, or any guitar player. I'm a terrible guitar player, but a really, really good guitar player will play through his system and not sound like him.
No.
There's lots of what he does that's in him.
Yes.
heart-wise, like whatever I don't know what it is. I don't know what it is, but it's the same as listening to Jimi Hendrix or Stevie Ray Vaughan. There are certain people where you hear, if Brian was playing Three Blind Mice, you'd know it was him.
Right, yeah.
If Hendrix was playing Three Blind Mice, you'd know it was him.
Sure.
And there's just certain people, and it's not magic, but it's just what's in them. And as Andy's saying, trying to analyse it or put it on a scope or like trying to actually physically analyse it, you're wasting your time, because you're just wasting your time.
So that's great, isn't it? It's just fascinating, this sort of stuff. And so, like, the G2 no longer exists now.
No.
I mean, you know, you're a couple of G's down the line.
Apparently so. I don't care.
So, how are you managing to keep going with this and support it and stuff like that?
Good old Andy here. I knew I was going to have a problem. We've just finished, well, a couple of months ago, we finished a month's residency in Vegas.
Right.
And they have sold off all their frequency spectrum apart from the 500 range. Now, I didn't have a 500 range system. So we talked about getting engineers to try and possibly make my system sound more like a Evolution, but we knew that was a bad road to go down. So basically what I did was I went on eBay and bought a load of stuff, a load of transmitters and receivers that weren't in the 500 range, the range A. And I said to Andy, I need you to go and get me some 500 range boards and make this pile of crap into a system that I can use. And he said, I'll try. And possibly 6 months later, there it was. And he'd sourced all these spare boards from everywhere, and we'd cobbled together this system, which will now work, hopefully. And I'll say this at this point, from when I started using this, I've never had a pack or a receiver go wrong. So I'm hoping now with the range A, I will never have a pack or never have a receiver go wrong. So Andy sorted that out for me. I gave him a bottle of booze.
He's cheap.
Happy days.
Yeah.
He's cheap as chips, mate. Yeah, it's great. So it's that's how we got round that. And Brian's very much a creature of habit. So I was saying to the guys earlier, he uses a homemade guitar and a treble booster and a Vox AC30, and basically that's it.
Wow.
He plays with a sixpence, and that is basically his setup since 1971.
I would say probably most people here, within 2 bars, you could tell it was Brian May playing the guitar, couldn't you? Yeah, of course you could. And how long, in terms of components and receivers and transmitters, how long do you think you've got in terms of years?
For this system?
Yeah.
Well, Brian, God bless him, is 71 now.
Is he?
Yes,
God.
he is. He's in better shape than me, and better shape than you, actually.
He's definitely in better shape than me.
So I'm kind of hoping that my gear is the Sennheiser gear I've got from 15 years ago has lasted forever, and it's still not. And I've had nothing fail.
Wow.
So I'm hoping that the stuff Andy did will now give. I've got a range A and a range B, which hopefully will take me around the world now for the rest of Brian's career.
Wow, amazing.
And I've got absolutely no doubt that will happen. I'm not worried about it.
And also because you're getting the support as well, you know.
Well, that's the main thing.
Yeah.
I'm going to steal his thing now.
Yeah.
But the main thing with having worked with Dave Hawker and Mark Saunders, thank you,
yeah.
and Mark Saunders, is that what you get and what you get from those guys, even though they don't work for the company now, and Andy, is what you get is, I know that if I'm in the middle of Australia and I get a problem, I've never had to do it, but I know that if I phone him, he will either not pick up the phone and go, oh God, it's him again, there must be a problem. But he will answer me and say, yeah, I can help you, or we'll sort it out, or right, I'll put you in touch with so and so. And that's the one of the biggest thing, in fact, the biggest thing. I get offered radio systems by
I can imagine.
all the other guys all the time.
I'm sure you do.
All the other time. But it's like people say to me, people offer me amplifiers. This sounds just like an AC30. I'm not interested in if it sounds like an AC30. I've got AC30s. Why would I want something that sounds like an AC30?
Yeah.
Bring me something that sounds better than an AC30.
Yeah.
And with Sennheiser, it's not about. It's about the personal touch. The personal thing for me is it doesn't matter who I work for or who he works for,
right,
or whoever's doing arts relations at the time. It doesn't matter what band you are. It matters to me that I can phone him personally at home anytime I want, day or night. Day or night, kind of, but day or night. But I've got a personal
and that's,
connection with him. So it's not like you've got Queen this side and you've got Sennheiser this side. What you've got is you've got Pete here and you've got Andy here, and that's what you need to do my job and to make my job easier. That's what I need.
And that's, I mean, that kind of takes me on to Joe. Really, we were talking earlier about, this whole industry was sort of being built up by hobbyists, really, and it's, in that sense, it's still a small industry. It's all built on relationships and, who we know and who can do what and stuff. And, that's what I found fascinating. There's a massive company like Sennheiser, but you've still got that personal contact and the, the support that you're getting and that kind of peace of mind. When and that's a big thing. You're on the road.
You can't function without that.
No, exactly, and that's that's what I mean. Brilliant. What a great story, eh? Yeah. So I now want to introduce you to Joe Campbell, monitor engineer extraordinaire. I'm going to read it. So Joe Campbell's worked with IMs since the I don't know anything about it. So he's worked with IMs, yeah?
I don't know who wrote that.
No, I don't know who wrote it either. Studio life was not for him. And he's been a touring engineer now for many years. He's worked with countless tours, artists such as Chris Rea, Placebo, currently Adele, and has been on tour with since her 21 tour. Joe Campbell. Joe, so your involvement with Sennheiser?
Well, it started really quite a long time ago, actually. And it would seem that the people that I had relationships with in Sennheiser, they don't work for Sennheiser anymore. And people have come and gone, but my relationship with the firm has stayed. So like I've been almost sort of passed along as people have come and gone in the company.
Right.
So that now I've been using Sennheiser equipment for well over 20 years, and in the early days of the Evolution wireless systems, I started using. Quite large, certainly for 20 years ago, quite large numbers of radio systems all together.
Yes.
Now, there was never any question that the equipment wouldn't work. It was the RF spectrum that was the tricky bit. So using our radio mic is not so difficult. Using two, that's fine. Use 16 or 18 of them, and then you really start to get into a complicated world of radio frequencies, and certainly 20 years ago there was no wireless system management programs, no software to look after it, no one had a scanner. Nobody really knew what was going on in RF world. So again, it's funny actually talking about Dave Orker there. Dave Orker at the time, which was just before your time, Andy, he was the man who reassured me that these things were possible.
Right.
And it was his. Thank you.
See,
thank you very much.
There was water on the table for the first half. Now,
it was his reassurance and his training was the thing that made me confident enough to take on RF jobs that without Sennheiser's backing, without their support, I wouldn't have had the confidence to do. And I wouldn't have had the knowledge. I after being trained by Sennheiser and being reassured that this is all correct, when you set all this equipment up correctly, and it still doesn't work all the time, doesn't work properly, then the problems were not with the equipment, but with spurious RF interference. So a classic example of a multi-channel radio system that was particularly difficult to get working and to keep working was I was working in the UK with I think it was 16 or 18 radio microphone systems in the very early days of evolution, and I couldn't get it all to work all of the time. So in a production rehearsal, you've got people with headsets on, dancers, radio mics being used all the time in ears everywhere, and it wouldn't behave itself. And at some points during the day and during the evening, there were dropouts in the radios that I couldn't understand, and I couldn't fix. So after checking everything, retune everything several times, it's like, I don't know what to do. I phoned Dave, so I phoned Dave Orker. And so Dave, of course, is like, he shows up and he checks that I've done everything correctly, which of course I had. And then he brought down, don't know if you've ever heard of a thing called the Vulcan. The Vulcan was an in-ear monitor RF amplifier that could fire your RF in-ear monitor signal to the other end of a stadium. Right, so put that in an arena and it will work. So, but it still didn't work. Now this thing looked like someone in a lab coat had made it in a shed, because it kind of had.
So what I love about it.
It was a thing that looked quite dangerous, actually. You know, so even with the addition of Dave Orker's special thing that he'd made, it still didn't work. So the problem with the equipment wasn't with the equipment; it was with the RF spectrum, and
which you can't see.
Which you can't see, and it wasn't there all the time. So it's not predictable, but it was something that could ruin your day, and it was ruining mine. So when Dave showed up, once he'd done all his tests and we checked all the equipment again and again, it was still happening. So Dave, with his very homemade looking scanning equipment and his, because now you can do it with an iPad and whatnot, but this was like, look, really homemade. It was very Dave.
Brilliant.
And wouldn't be defeated by this RF problem, and went walkabout. Dave goes walkabout with his RF scanner, and goes out into the locale and discovers that this source of RF was coming from another building. Wow. Finds where the strength of this radio signal is coming from, this intermittent radio signal, which was a laser quest. So in this laser quest, Dave finds out there was a cable with a broken BNC connector on it, which occasionally was squirting out loads and loads of RF, which was ruining my gig, which was next door. So Dave Orker finds this and gets the, through the right channels, obviously, gets the place closed. So he closed the laser quest, pending the repair of their system.
And so he didn't offer to repair it for them?
I was thinking that it was such a long time ago. I can't remember if he actually did repair it, or he got the place closed pending the repair that he pointed out. Okay. But nonetheless, when he came back after all this, I was sweating trying to get this RF stuff to work, and then all of a sudden it all just did.
Wow!
And then Dave Orker comes in the room with that "I've fixed it. You'll never guess what" expression on his face, with his homemade.
That special Dave Hawker look.
With his Heath Robinson thing that he'd made.
Yeah.
And so my point is, it's the support of the company that did that. It's not the equipment that was that overrode these problems. It was the support from the company that I mean, Dave, bless him, and the support has always been the same from that point. But that support from Sennheiser saved the day, and it reassured me that I wasn't doing anything wrong. Everything I was doing was correct. But if my RF world doesn't work perfectly, I can't even begin to mix the gig.
No, of course.
So that has to work solidly before I can even begin to do what I'm there to do. And this is 20 years ago now, so very different. 20 years ago, there were no RF techs, and nobody had scanning equipment, and nobody really knew. It was a free-for-all in RF world. And there was a lot of doubt and mystery about it because over time, people had really bad experiences with radio equipment, with it not really working very well, and a taxi coming through it every now and then, and that kind of thing. So now it's a lot more structured and ordered in the RF world, but then it wasn't, and it was Sennheiser that got me through that. That's not the only time they did. The support from this firm has been exceptional throughout.
Amazing.
Hear, hear.
Amazing. You know, the more
that's can I just say that Spinal Tap scene where the taxi does come through that is not far from the truth. That really is not far from the truth.
That is for real.
We've all had that.
Sorry?
Did you play Razor Craft?
Didn't you get any free tickets?
I've never been in.
No, they closed down. They closed down now.
They nearly ruined my life that day. but it was support from the firm that was key to it. And then, of course, once that was done, it sort of dispels any doubt that you have that people might have in the equipment, because there's no cable going from the thing to the thing. No. There's the mysterious gap in the middle, and it's the support from the firm.
The devil's gap.
The devil's gap. It's the support from the firm is key to equipment working. And when I'm in trouble, I've called you before, haven't I, Andy? And he has shown up, and he has fixed it. And the things that Andy's fixed have not been simple fixes at all. They've been particularly complex things. I mean, Wembley Stadium was a beauty. As the goalpost shifted in Wembley Stadium, Andy was there to help me through it, and we did get through it, and we did things in the RF world that I didn't think were possible.
Wow, amazing.
The thing is as well, if you turn up, whenever I turn up for a random gig, like a random guest performance with Brian, if he's there, I literally do walk in, and it's the same when Dave was there, or the same when Mark was there, or the same when he's there. If I walk in there, as soon as I see them, I go, oh, thank f***.
Just gets better.
Sorry, sorry, Vic. Thank f***. I say just thank f***. It's going to be okay. It'll be fine, and that's what you want.
This is amazing, just listening to this, because, you know, I mean, the whole name Evolution, you know, it was just a name, you know, it was a brand of microphones. But the more I listen to you guys, and the more we listen to the other guys, and you see this kind of synergy between the guys at Sennheiser and you guys doing it on the road, and how the systems have grown and evolved and got better, and, you know, that kind of drunken madness with your bottle of wine. Oh, it was Michael. Drunken madness, thinking.
Yeah, shut up, Michael.
Great name, yeah. That.
You're so noisy.
Yeah, it's become more and more. Obvious why it's called that.
The thing is though, we don't actually care what it's called.
No, of course.
We don't actually care what we just know it works. Yeah, they do. Yeah, I know they do. Yeah. But it just works. But actually, we don't care what it's called. No. We don't care if it's G1, G2, G3, G4. We don't care.
No, amazing.
It just works, and
it always works.
And it always works.
Amazing. Yeah, there's not a lot you can say that about, that's for sure.
Can we go now?
No, you've got your wine, you sit here, you might...
Damn it.
So, I want to bring just... we'll sort of try and wrap this up soon, but I just want to bring a whole kind of slightly different side to this now. Chris Denman here. Chris has been working for sort of the Capital Radio Group.
No, bless him. We've bonded. We have bonded tonight. Yeah, trust me.
All good. So yeah, Chris has been working for the Capital Radio Group, so XFM and Classic FM and Heart and Capital Extra and stuff like that. And Chris, you are responsible for recording the live sessions, yeah?
Yeah.
So you're based in a recording studio then?
Yeah, I'm in a recording studio in Leicester Square, just down the road.
Right. Okay.
And just
recording sessions for the radio, and now a lot of stuff online as well.
Yes.
But it's for those radio brands. So we'll do like Radio X bands from, I had Razorlight in last week, to Mastodon, who I've had through, to Interpol, to Placebo, you've worked with before. Anyone from like 2000 who had a radio bit of promo to do, they came in and did a session.
And why? I mean, you know, when you think of recording studios, particularly radios and stuff, you think of kind of Neumann and Sherps and, you know, all those big names. And you're using Evolution.
Yeah, well, what happened was previously when Capital Radio was at the Euston Tower, they used to have Scorpio studios, which was, you know, they had a G series SSL, lots of Neumann, lots of like very, very expensive microphones, Corex and bits and pieces.
Yes.
I do still have those in the locker there, but what originally, like the XFM sessions, were basically sessions went away for a while, and then slowly they came back, but they only came back in like an acoustic sense of the word.
Right.
So then, bit by bit, I wasn't really allowed to go near those microphones because they were kind of like in an archive stuck down in Heston and stuff like that. The first approach to Sennheiser was through, I talked to Mark Saunders.
Oh, yes.
And so the old studio was me, no multi-track, so this was a DM2000, a DAT machine, with the band behind me and the drummer in a news booth. And the news booth was so small, the only problem we had was mic stands were the issue.
Right.
And someone went, give Mark a call, because they've got some great clip mics for drums. I was like, okay, fine. So in my head, I'm like, oh, PA mics, you know, stuff like that. Yeah. And you can hear the difference. I mean, for me, mics are very key, as well as with people playing through them. And Mark went, look, here's the drum kit set, here's the vocal mic set, here's the guitar set, have a play. I was like, okay, fine. Chuck them on, and I've been using them ever since.
Amazing.
And it's little things like, you know, I've still got a Mark 1 602 kick mic, and what you'll find is that mic, I mean, the mic range doesn't sound like PA mics. They're not. I mean, they're like the capsule for that was 421 capsule. So straight away, that's not a PA capsule, and then they're tweaked a bit more. So, like for me, I can get that D12 knocking kick mic sound on that mic to like a really clicky in the thing without having to run an in mic. Yeah. Because, you know, it alone, if the kit's tuned right and the player's right and that mic is positioned right and you take your time on it, it's spot on every time, and it's flexible. Yeah. And the thing is, it's like that across the whole range. You know, the clip mics, you know, they sound like 421s as well. Like you'd have a lot.
Do you actually give a shit about drum sound though?
I do. I know.
Really?
It's a pain.
It's about that, right? Is it about that? Is it about that? I don't know. It's about guitar sound, isn't it? Surely.
Of course, yeah. But it's funny. It's one of those things. Like I'm very lucky because I get to reproduce the album sound.
Yeah.
In the studio, in like 2 hours.
Wow.
I mean, we load in at like, well, we used to do 3 sessions a day. Full sessions.
Yes.
So it'd be like 1 from 10, you know, in at 10, out by like 1. The next one, an hour later, and after that it would be, you know, going out live on air for like Zane Lowe or Zoe Ball or whoever. It was the kind of drive time, and then go out and have a party. And then it kind of got, you know, just died down to 2. But yeah, normal times are like 10:30 load in, out by 1:30, 2, and it is, you know, pretty much done and dusted. So
like you're saying, you know, like Joe's just said, they work. You know.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
You know, they just work.
Oh, you know, we always have to do the dance with, you know, whoever's coming in with the band as well, and you know, they're always very welcome to sit in, like front of house guys and stuff like that. And there's always this conversation, I've got a load of my mics. I'm like, put them on. Yeah. Instantly I can hear that they're not that kind of studio mic. You know,
and are you using Evolution on the vocals as well?
Yes. Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
It's amazing.
So been stuff on that, and the guitar mics, the 609s, just for having to get stuff up very quickly. If I've got like a 57 on a cab, there's an element of you kind of knocking it across to kind of really kind of find it. And make yourself go deaf by trying to
trying to tune it in.
And you move the 6, you whack it right on axis, and I would say 85% of the time it's pretty much on the mark.
Do you know what this is? It's the same as a 421 Sennheiser mic.
Yeah.
That's what Brian's been using on his cabs for ever. And you stick them anywhere and it sounds good. You can tune them in, but basically if you threw one in front of a AC30, it would sound great.
Yeah.
And it would sound like him.
And it's exactly that. The mics are great, and they're reliable. And the thing is, I do have that, kind of sound engineering by numbers, effectively.
Yes.
I'm recreating that, and I know that those mics stand up to what the studio mics have been doing.
Amazing.
Yeah, it's been really, really good.
That's really good. I want to leave some time for just some questions and stuff at the end, because it's...
that'd be good. I think the bar's closing soon.
Yeah, exactly. I'd quite like to just come back to Martin and possibly Andy, just to end it, because we've heard some really good stuff tonight, and these are fascinating stories. I'd like...
He's not said anything yet, has he?
I'd like Martin just to talk about a little bit, if you can, and I don't know how much you can say about what's coming up in the future. Yeah,
so I already told in the first session when we designed the Evolution Wireless, so it was almost about reliability, about transmission safety, about good quality and ease of use. And so these are answers from users about 10 plus years ago. So when we today asked users what they require for a new wireless microphone, then of course these are still valid, but there are coming some additional features or requirements. For instance, is the RF. So the wish is to have most frequency flexibility, and this is mainly due to the reason that in the last years the usable frequency spectrum is shrinking. Yeah. And this is not only in the UK, this is worldwide. We see in the US that they cut already frequencies above 608 megahertz. And we are facing the same problem in Europe by next year when the World Radio Conference will take place. And so the usable spectrum becomes smaller and smaller. And so there are even some rumors that the total UHF range may not be usable in 20 plus years from now.
Wow.
And this is still rumors, so nobody knows. And so what we can say is that there will be still spectrum in the UHF for the next maybe 10 years, but we are fighting with the authorities, with ministries, and to see what we can get on at least new frequencies, because we can't keep these UHF frequencies because there are other mobile services. They spend billions of euros and dollars, so we can't do that. So we can lobbying, but we don't have the money to buy spectrum.
That's really scary, isn't it? For everybody, that's really scary.
Yeah.
For live acts, that
for
is,
good reasons.
That's for live performance. That's really scary. Really scary.
Yeah.
We do need the support of all the users to make these, to take on these battles with the authorities. And in this country, it's Ofcom, but they're not the only challenge that we face.
No,
as Pete said, it's a scary thing for the touring world, and we're very aware of it.
Yeah.
But as soon as people can't have live music how they want it, I'm sure there will be something put in place. Because as soon as the first tour is cancelled because of RF issues, then I'm sure that will be sorted out.
It's too late then, though, isn't it?
Yeah.
It's too late.
Yeah, it is too late, but I'm sure it will happen in 6 months' time when suddenly there's no European tours.
Well, the whole PA system thing changed after Shea Stadium and the Beatles, and everybody went, nah, we can't do that.
Who are the Beatles?
Oh, I don't know, some blokes from Liverpool. Anyway, just before we wrap it up, I just want to ask, has anybody got any questions?
Just wanted to give a shout out to Joe Campbell for doing a really good job at Adele, because it was the first time I'd seen the monitor position where it was behind a few concrete walls, a huge stadium show, and it was sort of magical. She was in the round, it was enormous. I wasn't at front of house, but the whole gig I was thinking, how are you doing that?
Where's the monitor desk? Where is it?
Because I'd been to talk to you and you were looking at it on a video screen.
Yeah.
But I was like, he's not there.
No.
But it was because of this.
Joe is a god.
Mate.
On some of the stadium shows, I actually mixed it from outside the stadium on a fibre optic link. And and to be honest, the most difficult thing about that was convincing the local crew that the monitor desk really was going in this room and not going to the stage.
You were like, they thought you were winding them up. And you were like, no, I'm working from here.
Did they mistake you for broadcast? Did they mistake you for broadcast?
Yeah, I was out with the video control outside the stadium, which was...
and he still smashed it.
Which was just quite unusual. But...
So we've got another question over here. Brilliant.
It's one for all of you, really. As part of the Sennheiser brand, what would you say out of each one of you is the best experience through Sennheiser?
Well, the most recent complex RF thing that I did was a stadium tour of the world and finishing in Wembley Stadium, where, like I said earlier, they shifted the goalposts and literally shifted the goalposts. And Andy came along and Andy designed and helped me through some particularly tricky RF situations, and we did what I thought was impossible.
Amazing.
Why would you say it's impossible?
Some of the things that we did with antenna distribution and RF transmission and reception, we did through concrete walls. But that RF
sounds
doesn't
pretty
go through.
Yeah.
So we did some particularly clever things, and we made it look like we made it look easy when it was particularly difficult.
Pete?
The Olympic closing ceremony, I used Sennheiser radio systems, and the guys who were looking after that said to me, "Oh, okay, as long as we're using Sennheiser, we're okay." So Brian, he was doing a guitar solo in front of 1 billion people, apparently live. He was the only live guitar player on either the opening or the closing ceremony. Thanks very much, boss. The RF guys said to me, as long as we're using Sennheiser, we're okay. And they tracked him from one end of the stadium to the other, playing We Will Rock You, and it was the most terrifying experience of my life. Thank you very much. I've no idea how I did it, and he doesn't either. But it was when they said to me, "What guitar gear are you using?" I said, "I'm using a Sennheiser wireless." And I went, "Oh, Sennheiser, yeah, it's fine, we'll sort it." I was okay. I never saw them again. They might as well have been MI5, for all I can. That's it.
Just want to thank you all so much for coming. It's been a really fun evening. No one's really sure how this was going to work out, but it's been fun, and it's been really entertaining and interesting and educational. And so, just thank you so much for coming out tonight and listening. And let's give these guys a round of applause. And thank you very much. Cheers.